What's up, everyone? Welcome to another video from Arete Trading. We're going to do the daily recap stock market video, as we've been doing for probably the past couple weeks now. We're going to review which ones moved today, which ones didn't, and what's going on. I know a lot of people are frustrated. They're watching the concentration moves, mostly in like the larger cap big techs. We're going to get into that. We're also going to get into some of the smaller ones and what's going on with them. You know, why some of them are going to come back and why some aren't. As always, subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications, because what we go over here is extremely timely, meaning looking at this a week or two from now is not going to do you anywhere near as much good. So let's just jump right into it and start at the beginning. The very first one is APPN. Now, this is one that people have been looking at for a while. Look, it's just not going anywhere. And for the people that are asking to have it reviewed, there's better names out there. You can just see, let's get rid of all these horizontal lines. And let's just run right through here. Okay? Look, you can see how you are breaking, finally getting some love there, right? You can see that you're finally flattening. So if you're really looking for something that's positive, and I did this video, and I'll link this video at the end, how to use RSI to determine bottoms and entry points. See how this point and this point, this one's higher here, and you have this slope. See how this is lower and this is lower? That's what you call a positive divergence, and you're seeing that. So this might mean that we are bottoming. What would I want to see to say that we're bottoming? And that doesn't even mean that I buy it. But really what you want to see is a solid close and push above that line. Not this little stuff that we're seeing, but a solid push, maybe even to the 21-day, because you're not going to really want to wait till 175 before you engage the stock, which is really what you need to do. You got to get over one of these hurdles. So if you're trying to get in early, you got to see what's going on here. But right now, it's just not looking like it's going to do anything except continue to go down. So you have to let it prove itself a little bit before you jump right in. And we get to the 5 and the 8, you can just see that they're trending right along. So there's not really anything that they're going to do, right? So we just really need to let this thing turn and then come up. And right now, we just don't have any signs that that's going to do it. We do have signs that it's bottoming. We have this line, we have the double bottom undercut, and we push through it, but we're just not really going anywhere. So let's watch. There's better ideas out there. There's a lot of ideas out there, and I think we're setting up quite nicely here. So this is APPS, and I've been going through this one. We had a nice rally here. It looked like we were finally going to break through, and then we were just reversed. And it was just nasty, dropped all the way down, retested these two different support lines, and the 50 and the 21, and what did we do? We've reversed. So we're trying to get above this trend line, right? That's what we've been trying to do, and we're just not able to do it. We've hit it again. So what we really need to do is we need to get above that line before you consider buying this. And this does look great. I mean, you have a base from the beginning of February from this breakout. Higher high, lower low, higher low, lower high. So what you can see here is the consolidation. We're getting tighter and tighter. That's one of those velocity contraction patterns that Minervi talks about, but this is a lot wider than what he's looking for. But what I'm getting at is as this gets tighter, it's setting up to break this. Now you just have to wait for that trigger move. And so you could be using this 91.69 level. The other one, if you don't really want to wait that long, you could just come down here, frankly, and use this right here. See how you're hitting here and here? You could flip that wick, and I guarantee you that as you come across and look at that area, you'll kind of see some more spots there where it's hitting. So that 90, so I would do 90 and a quarter. Look at that as your area, and then go from there. And you can also see the, this trend line, and usually RSI can be somewhat of a leading indicator. So see how this has already broken that trend line right here. That's lined up with this trend line. And I didn't really get into this in the video because it's kind of an advanced technique, but this has already broken its trend line. This determines the magnitude of this move. If this is breaking, the probability of this breaking and going up is greater. So look for that 90 and a quarter, and that's where I would enter. You might even see it back in the newsletter. And if you don't get the newsletter, there's a link in the bio to subscribe to it and it is free. It comes out 3 times a week. We go over stock ideas and what's going on with the market. And people that have been doing it for a while have been fairly successful in following it and then adding their own process to it. So let's get rid of this, and let's just get rid of all these indicators since they're frankly irrelevant because the stock hasn't been out. And the one thing that you'll notice is you're just in this trading range, right? You can almost see the line from here across. Okay, so this 76, you just cannot break it. And that's your major resistance. Here's your minor resistance on Bumble, right? So these are really right near each other. So breaking minor resistance is not going to really do it for me to be in here. You can actually argue that this little peak here is also a resistance. See how you've hit here twice on the wick and not broken it? So, I mean, you can actually make that argument that you need 76.50. So, I'm not going to really want to wait for this flip. But what you see happening is every rally is just met by selling in a base. And here's your base. You can see the one level right here, right? But more importantly, if you see this breakdown and then you broke down again, then you broke down again, but look at this line. So this is where we opened and rallied. This is where we opened and closed on. This is where we opened and rallied. So this tells you that whatever this number is, that's where there's support. And people ask me this all the time, why the lines, it depends how you chart, but why are the lines when they open and the close? Well, that's where the action is. Right? The action is where they're open orders on the beginning. I'm not interested in where the algos took it and flipped it during the day and tried to run and get people in. I'm interested in how it opened and how it closed because that's where real volume is, and that's really where the institutions that are buying or selling are at. That's why those lines are important. So just make a note of that. That's why some people, when you see certain people drawing charts, that's why sometimes their lines are wrong. And they don't execute the same way as if you learn how to do this properly. So here, you can see right across on the top of this wick, coming right across there. So what did we do today? We tried to break 64 and we just got smacked down. So there's your line, and you should be able to see how many times we've tried to do this at this point, right? 64, how many times? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's not rocket science. What should your pivot be? Close over 64, or you can now use this if you don't want to wait during the day. If I go over 64 3/4, the probability of the reversal below 64 is substantially less. So you could use that 64 3/4. I would just wait on this. I would wait for it to show you what it's going to do, and I would wait for some volume to come in. This volume line has just been dropping off a cliff. And it's just not great. So I would wait for that. But I like the stock and I like the idea. It just has to prove itself. So Cleveland Clips, the whole space is tough. Let's get rid of these indicators for a minute because this is worth learning. So, and some people actually take notes when I go over all this so that they can go back and review. But you see, look at this right here, okay? I'm not in the right spot. There you are. So let's open this way, way up so you can understand this. Okay, this is called a gap fill trade, and I'm going to start doing these videos, Trade Like a Pro, where people can understand what types of moves they're supposed to be looking for during the day, what these moves actually mean, because some mean something. When you gap fill and then you bounce, that's substantial. So what happened today is about a week ago we broke out, open, ran. Everyone thought we were going. This time we're really going to go. Boom, we break down. Everyone gets depressed. It breaks the slow. Their stops get triggered. The selling ensues. This becomes support. This line, this gap, okay, once you're in the gap, you're in the gap. I mean, you're hit. It's really hard for them to just reverse why they're in this space because there's no support or resistance that's been acquired during that period, right? So they just free fall. Anyway, so what you're seeing here is a test of that gap and then a bounce up off of it. So what you would want to see if you really want to own this now is a higher high of this bar. So you would, this is just a simple gap fill trade. So you would look at this and say 1950, flip 1950, and you could push and get back to the top of this, which would take you to 2043, and then you're in it. And that's one way to enter that trade. Now, just look at what these indicators are telling you. I have the 21 crossing the 50. That also is a support line here. This is in a positive trend, my RSI. I've got huge spikes of buying on this break. And so we just come back, backfilled, and now it looks like we might get ready to go again. So just keep that in mind. I mean, that's what I would look for here. I would look for a flip of this falling wedge and a higher high there, and that would be my entry point. This is shaping up really nicely, and this is something you may see in the newsletter very shortly. We can go here on the indicators, and I can throw in the 5 and the 8, and you can just see right here on the 5 and the 8 on Etsy, see this crossover, how this 5 and this 8 are crossing over and starting to point up? That's a buy signal. Usually when the 5 and the 8 start to do that, people will just execute right on that trade. I don't. I use a bunch of different stuff, but when you know that people are looking for that and it happens, it adds value. So today we got above the 21 and we got above the 50, and we stopped. This line's been there for probably since this week, and we stopped right on that line, didn't we? Now, you break that line tomorrow, and the fact that you're above all these moving averages, you're going to see some buying coming in. And if you look at this line on Etsy, and I just want to show this particular line because I think it's important. You can see all this stuff in here, right? But when you flip right here and you make that higher high, that 217, you should push. And the very first level you're going to wind up going to should be this wick. So it should take you to 230. So breaking out of this, and the high of this bar was 216.24. So you're really looking at 216 3/4, and that should flip you 15 points up to the 230, 231 line. You can see how that wicks right here, and you can also see how we kind of rallied here, hit it here as well. So that should take you to 231 and really get you back in the channel and trying to get to this upper channel again, which would take you to 260, 270. So at the end of the video, I do want to go through a couple that I did add today to the newsletter, and also one that I'm probably going to add to the newsletter tonight. Actually, I am going to add it tonight. I'm going to add 2 of them tonight. They both look really good. So I'll do that at the end because I want to review. You can, look, let's get rid of all these indicators. Okay. FUTA came down and tested support. Right? See this line right here? And we can get rid of these for a moment, these horizontal. Remove all the horizontal lines. And let's get rid of this one for a moment. So this was the trade, and we talked about this on Twitter a lot. But what you saw here was you went right to that lower trend line. And what happened, right? And you can see what happened. We bounced here. This was a buy right here. And nobody really wanted to touch it because everybody was scared because we just were all getting crushed as the stuff was coming in. That's why it's so important that you have a system and you understand your system and put stops in place. So what you do is you clone these lines. You always clone the lines. And I'm using Trend Spider. They'll give you 7 days free if you want to try it. There's a link in the description. But the reason I bring that up is they have a lot of functionality like this. It makes it so much easier to clone the lines. I hit a button and boom, it's done. But you have to find out where that clone line fits. This is where it fits. So even though it's not perfect, it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean that you go up here with it. You have to go with where the line is. Why am I using this? I'm using this because it's being respected. Okay, you can see how this line has been respected. And now, let's just do this with it so that you can see what I'm getting at. You can see how it's even respecting it in here with the open and closes. And then look at how it hits there on the low. So this is the wedge, and that's why they have to have the same trajectory for the people that ask me this. So now I've flipped out of the rising wedge. I've closed here. Okay, this is setting up again, and if you aren't in and you want to be in, get aware of this. Now, really what you're looking for is a push above this 165. You get above 165 and this thing's probably heading back to 200 fairly quickly. Our first flip was 200, but you can see that we'll just say 204 here. But you can see this, and the way that this is setting up to run. We've got a complete vacuum in here. So there's no more selling at all going on in this. We're respecting the 50-day, the 21, the bulls are in charge, and on top of that, the RSI is telling you that we're heading up. So this should definitely be on everyone's radar. It looks like we're going to move. As I've been stating for a while now, that I really think that the Nasdaq's going to lead, and we're going to get into that at the end. So this was something I threw in the newsletter today that didn't work, and I just want to review the process of it so people understand why I threw this in. I threw these out a couple times. I threw it here the first time. We did talk about it back here with the squeeze, and that was months ago. But the most recent one before today was here, was this little wedge, and I just want to review it so you can see it. So the stock respects these wedges for whatever reason, right? All stocks have personalities, and this one disrespected the wedge. When we broke here, we issued a buy and said, look, you should take a look at this. And we were fortunate, and we did fairly well with it, right? Here you could see the support line come in. We didn't really do anything. I think we had one or two other trades in here. Today, what got me about this is as silly as this news was on the chairman, we were breaking up right above that wedge line, very similar to what we did here. So to me, this was giving us an entry. Now that entry, we opened here, ran to it, so it looked like we were going to go, and then rejected. So that was the trade. It didn't work, and I recommended that you take a look at like the 200 calls this week and next week if you were going to do it for options, because you don't really know. I mean, it's a very hard stock to trade now, because you just don't know what tomorrow's going to bring and what news is going to come out. So you might be better off doing it with options. So it didn't work, but that was the thought process behind the trade. GRWG, you have this massive upward trend that you're still trying to get into. And as everybody would remember, this line's been here for over a week, right? And look, we just hit it and stopped right at it today. So really what you want to see is you really want to see a flip of that line. Okay, where we closed, you want to see it close there. This is pretty substantial. And it's almost a reverse head and shoulders with the left shoulder here, right shoulder here, and here's the head. So now that you're above this, you should push, and you really want to clear this 59, 30, 32. But if you don't want to wait for that, get above this line and stay above this line. So in other words, if you buy this and it closes below it, you don't want to be in there. So, and look for it to start pushing, pop back in this channel. Of all the weed stocks, this one looks the best. I mean, to me, even if when you look at Telray, I went over this yesterday, and I know people were upset, but it looks like a short. And I want to preface this again and remember this statement because it's factual. When the RSI is moving like this, and the RSI is telling you, see how this peak's higher than this one? Here and here, right? And this peak's higher, that's a positive divergence. It's telling you, it's telegraphing what may happen, right? It's not always 100%, but it's telegraphing you what may happen. So I would really look at this, and what you're looking to do is flip that higher high and go from there. So this was one that we played around with a lot, and you can see all the different levels that are in here. I'm just going to fix this IPOE real quick. And if you can, in the comments, I've been asked to do the closed captions on here for the words on the bottom. If people think that that's helpful, please comment today. If you want closed captions, I don't know why I wouldn't do it to have the words there, but just let me know, and it's something that I can look into. I guess some people just watch this instead of listening. But so what you're seeing here, straight down, where'd you hit? Major support becomes resistance, right? Let's get rid of all the bells and whistles. So just look at price. Sometimes it's just great. Get rid of all the crap and just look at price and what price is telling you. Look, this is pretty clear what happened. Okay, you undercut, but you really didn't have a new low put in, right? You really didn't flush everybody out. You flushed everybody out here, ran to your trend line, didn't break your trend line, and came back down. Retested it, and now you're here. You really never broke this low. You really never flushed out everyone. So what does that mean? It means that we really don't have a reason for this to push. So we're right above this resistance level. This is no longer, once we get rid of this text, this resistance level, we're a little bit above it. You need to see this thing really start getting above some of these levels. So to me, keep this levels where your stop should be. But really what I want to see is I want to see a break above 19 3/4. A break above 19 3/4, I can start getting into these gaps. You see this gap here? See this gap right here? That's where I want to get to, because that gets me that push, that 3-point push, and then all of a sudden I can raise my stop so I don't have to worry about losing money, right? It's all about money management. And you can see how this is shaping up. You have a 5-8 moving average crossover. You have the 21-day pushing up. That 19 3/4 would make you flip the 50-day, which we have not been above for months. So that's really your pivot. I don't see any reason to chase this thing for $1 here before it gets above 19 3/4. KOPN, we put in the newsletter, we're break even on it essentially. We're still, I get it, everybody's excited because it didn't go down. I mean, that seems to be the excitement right now when we're not getting crushed in an idea. Look, this is why you have stops, okay? You're going to get stopped out of ideas. If you're batting 50%, you should be crushing it, making money through your money management principles. If you're not, you need to reevaluate what you're doing. But if you're right 50% of the time, you should be absolutely crushing it. Let's get rid of these indicators for a moment, and let's just look at this. So really what we have is we're right under this, and we just keep hitting it, and not breaking above it. And we really have to clear that. And the other issue that you really have to get through is you're going to have to get through this 12. Once you're through 12, this should just keep going. And I believe that this stock, hold on one second, I just want to see something. And let me just do one more thing. Go back to the monthly. Yep. So you were around for a while before, and you can see right where this peak went. Back here about 15, 17 years ago, you're going to have some resistances up here in the 17s, 18s. You're going to have some resistances in the 19s, but you're through all this other stuff. Like this was really big, right? And you're through all that. So you're through that 982 level. You're through this. So I like this trade, and it does help to look at different historical patterns to get a sense of where people are in this. But I need to get above this level, and I need to stay above it. If not, this is just going to be a failed breakout, and I'm going to roll. And I don't want that. And right now I've got this rising wedge. I don't like that either. So I really need to get above this, and soon. Now, if you throw the bells and whistles in, let's get rid of the 5 and the 8. They're pretty immaterial. I'm respecting that 21-day. I'm not breaking it. Since I crossed above it, I'm not breaking it. So what leads me to believe is that we will push and that this will go. But they're the levels that we're looking at, and they're the levels that we want to see. I wouldn't add to it until we start closing above it. And frankly, right now with the action, I expected the day that I bought this to have a big push, and I didn't get it. I expected to clear this wick, and it didn't happen. So I would wait till 12 at this point right now. I would. So KOTS, I've been talking about this. We're right here. It's where we've been in it. And I'm going to drill into this a little bit so people can see this. You see how this is the bottom of the flag, this is the top of the flag, this is the flagpole. You're right on the 50-day. I mean, it's not doing anything. There's no reason to move or do anything with this if you're in it. If you're bored, then I don't know what to tell you about that, but there's no reason to move this trade. And there's a lot of lines in here, but you can see like this 2853. Look, when we get through this, this is going to push. This 21-day keeps creeping up. It's only a matter of time before this rallies. I mean, honor the stop, but stay in the trade. LABU I've been talking about for some time. It's going to be very difficult for the Qs to explode up and not bring biotech with it. And my belief is that we're heading that way. And I'm going to get into that at the end of this on why I added a couple key stocks and an ETF today to the newsletter. But look, I mean, you're right on support. And you have a really interesting divergence going on here with this RSI. Right here to here, right? And this peak is lower than this peak. We undercut it, then we rallied. What I'm not crazy about is we're unable to break that 200-day. And you can just see how the 21-day is now resistance. And these moving averages become resistance and support, and that's exactly what's happening. That's not where you want to be. So in 20 years of doing this, I can't tell you when the NASDAQ went, up majorly without bringing the underlying index with it. Now, these 3X ETFs, just so we're clear, right, they depreciate at 3 times the rate at least. It's actually more than that than the underlying index. And you can see that by the move, right? This is where we're above the 200-day on the actual index where we're not on LABU. So you can actually trade the index and then put the trade on through LABU. So I would tell you that, you really want to just get above and close above this 21-day and then look at putting that on. So 152, 153, close above 153 on the day, and I would really look at buying that LABU because you don't know where that LABU price is going to be when it closes at 153, right? Because this depreciates every day by not only its cost, but it's also 3X. So you really need to take that into account. So that's what I would be looking for. And at this level, I think we're okay. And I think there's a trade here. It just hasn't triggered yet. I don't want to do the Qs yet. So in the video that we put this in the newsletter at 540, we are at 574 today. Look, I think this is just getting started. I think this was the last chance to buy this thing below the 200-day, barring some news that comes out. This just looks like it's going to rip. And you are constantly hitting highs, making a new high. Constantly, one day where you didn't. So there's really very little to do here except get in the trade, stay in the trade. For people that don't want to buy a $500 or $600 stock, eventually I'm going to do an options video. I keep getting a ton of questions about them. Really, the options that you want to buy, and just jot this note down, you want to go through the portfolio of options and find the ones that are deep in the money with the least amount of premium on time, right? To where there's almost zero. Like you could have gone through Facebook right now and find those options. They were April 16th 250s on Facebook, where it was literally zero premium. So you're trading the stock for a sixth of what the price is, and it's important when you're trying to lever the actual trade. You're looking at this move and you're really trying to get the most bang for your buck. And maybe it's not not everyone can buy 1,000 shares right now of NVIDIA. So you got to keep that in mind. But I'm going to put something together for people on it. So broke over here. Looks like it's just going to keep ripping. I don't see a sense of doing anything. There's really nothing to do here. You got a couple key levels. This was one of them. We closed right on it. Maybe 575. Maybe it pins to 575 tomorrow with options X. But you can see we tried to break it here, couldn't, broke it above here. Start closing above this. You got this enormous base from September on. 6-month base. This is gonna run, and you're going to talk about getting back in this channel. 750 is going to be nothing compared to what this can do. So this is a real long-term stock for us, for me, and I think that this could be around for some time. And everyone knows how I feel about semiconductors at this point. I just think that it's a really hot space to be in right now, especially with the shortages. So you could see this probably little wedge right here on SE, right? See how we just ran right to that wedge and just stopped? We actually rejected it, right? You can see that, how you hit it. Look how you hit it. And then you didn't even close it up halfway on the bar. So, but you have a lot of positive things that are going here. The 21 is curling. We're above the 50-day for 3 days now, which lets you know that you're going to probably stay there. So let's see what happens. We broke out of this falling wedge, and we really don't need it anymore. Right? It's no longer really relevant right now. So you can see how we're now trying to get above this one. And we should be pushing to try to get higher. I wouldn't buy this until it clears this level, but when it clears that level, I would definitely take a look at it. And the 5 and the 8 should be, they crossed here, and ever since they crossed, look what happens. Nice move. And I think you're going to see more here. But you have to wait till you get above that. As I've been told, people love these arrows. So this is really where your line should be, right there. And that would put you 262. Now, on 262, you have to say, where's your target? Well, this is pretty clean target, right? So you can see you have a level here, but really you're here, okay? So I don't want to get everybody too excited, but there's a big target here, and you're really up. By the time you got there, let's say take today, and I'll do these. People seem to like these. You're really right here, okay? So you're really at this, up here. So you're really at like 325. So there's 75 points here. Like this is not a small move. Like there's There's a real move here. So points, let me just put that up there. Well, let me put that up there with actual numbers. So this is something that I've been monitoring. It may eventually be in the newsletter. I'm just not there yet, and pretty much people understand why it's not there. But you're looking at 75 points from here to here, and I'm still in the channel. That's not even flipping the channel and seeing if it could go. But that's what I would be looking for technically, and I think this has a real nice shot of it. I mean, we're not even remotely overbought yet on this, and you know, for those that want to understand the RSI, I would strongly suggest that you learn RSI over any other indicator if you're new and a beginner. So we have a true double bottom that was put in, and it looks like we're testing it, and we tested it today. So we have a lot going on here. So what we're going to do is we're just going to remove everything, okay? And then we're going to get rid of all the indicators. And just for the people that are out there, we're going to put this out there again, skills, so people know what it is. And as always, if you have comments on how I can make this better or more informative, or things that I should be adding, please let me know. The purpose of me doing this is to educate as to what it takes to be truly successful trading. So you can see that that's not the best close in the world. I mean, you actually have closed below the previous close. So just that alone, you need to avoid this until we figure out what's going on. And everybody knows these H patterns, and I call them the dreaded H. So it's a lowercase h. I mean, this is setting up to break again. And so it looks like this double bottom is setting up to fail. So we really need to see what happens here. I would not be jumping in this because, you know, as I try to explain to people, this stuff can always go lower than you think it can. Always go lower than you think it can. So, and you know why I'm thinking there's one I really want to go over that just got completely washed out, and I think it is getting ready, but I don't think we're going to see that huge bounce. But where would you go here on skills? Look, you're going to the 1470 level. Okay, if you break this, that's your next support level. Your indicators, you are below the 200 for the first time. You are the 5 and the 8 have crossed to the downside, and you're rolling. Okay, I don't care that this RSI is at 30 because as I showed previously in that other video, that can just keep going lower. So that doesn't really get me excited. But yeah, you could go to this 1470, and that can happen. So just watch and wait. It can always get worse than you think it can, and that's why it's important to have a system and a process. So this, just start looking at this. I mean, I have been wanting to buy this, but I think that you might be, let me remove the segment line, and we're going to just look at this here. It just seems to me that we're getting to that point of exhaustion. And there's a couple of reasons I feel that way, but you really want to just keep this on your radar. If this does break that level, right, which is right here, just come across with it so you can see it. If you get above that 46.5, and I would wait till you see some action like that, because it can get, you know, this can always get worse. But this just seems like it's getting really, really washed out and tighter in here. So it might be, the selling's still going on, obviously, but it looks like it's starting to wind down a little bit. So just put that on your radar as one to watch, and start looking for that 46.50 level. So here is Sono, which has just been an absolute monster of a stock, and just one that's just done exceptionally well. So let's throw this back up in here, and let's get all these indicators in here for a moment. I mean, you can see your base here, and you can see how all these are pointing up. Look at this cross here. I mean, this is ready to go again. Right here, this break of that line, we're actually above that 42.11 close. We're at 42.19. This is ready to rip, and you have a lot of space here. I mean, you have a whole channel right here, right? You should be able to see this. Let me move that over. Let's click this and just pull that back here so you can see what we're looking at. And you can see where we're going. I'm going with this, hopefully. So, I mean, this is really where you're heading. So you can actually use this. This is actionable. I mean, this could be actionable tomorrow. Look at the volume, but a break of the 42.25 line on Sonos, and you're really heading to, you know, let me just try to shrink that here, and then put it up top here. So you'd really be looking at the upper end of this thing. So you're looking at 47, 48 before it runs into any issues. But I really like the trade, and I think it's setting up really nicely. So I would definitely take a look at that. Don't be surprised if, you see this. We were short this, and we actually did okay with it. We were short it, I think, back here at, looks like 216 on the break, and then we covered it. Let me get rid of this. This may be, you may see this on the other side. It did something today. I'm really debating whether or not to put this on the long side, and I think I'm there, candidly. Let me get rid of all this, and I'll show you why. Remove all annotations. I mean, this is one of the other features I really like about this. Boom, everything's gone. So let's click here. But I really do like this trade. I'm just going to show you what it did today and one of the reasons why I'm now interested on the long side and why I took this long. Okay, so here's that left shoulder. Okay, and you can see these lines, right? You can see them. Look at this W pattern. Right, you should be able to see this W. Okay, we broke through today, right? And we broke through pretty solidly with an open of the was the low, and the close was the high. It doesn't get more bullish than that. And now I'm above a lot of these support and resistance levels. Now, if you throw this in, okay, I have all these that are just starting to ramp up. Now, what else do we have here? We have huge volume that came in today on that break, which is exactly what you want to see, right? So if you look at this line right here, and we'll put a little arrow on this. I think we'll put a little arrow on this. Hold on. And okay. There we go. All right. So you should be able to see that, but I'm going to leave that arrow there so you can see what I'm talking about. You're above average. You're above your 30-day volume line, and you have huge volume, like one of the top 20 days you've had in volume in a long time. So that's exactly what you want to see, and that's what you want to be involved in. So breaking like that tells me that we're probably going higher here. So I would not be surprised to see this on the long side, and here's why. There's a tremendous trend here, okay? And now that we've based for a while, it's given this trend time to rest. And just take a look, right? By the time you get there, this is the level that you're at, roughly. So you're really at like 320, 325. So you're really at a level, when you look at this, where this 320, 325 level, where you're looking at 75 points, and you don't even need that as a stop. I mean, you could even argue that, if you wanted to have a really wide stop, you could just use the 50-day as your close. But you don't have to. I mean, if you break below the low of this close, that could be our stop. So this is something to really watch. But it's definitely one that I think is going to be in there tonight, just to give you a heads up. I think Square will be in there this evening. So this STPK, we've been looking at this one for a while. And you can see what's going on here. We had a nice rally, but you went right to the, I don't know why this is here. We can get rid of that. You can see here, like, okay, so we hit support, we rallied. There's no volume. So this is not something where I feel the need that I really have to jump into. Nice spike. Acted great on the break, right? So if you get rid of this, you can see the break right here. So, I mean, I get the trade. I understand it. Right? But look where you closed. Okay, I mean, that actually goes all the way back to here. So, like, it's not overtly exciting. I mean, I get it, but you're still in that baseline, right? You're still in that little base. So I would want to see more action. I mean, I have that. I have this as well up here, right, that I wasn't able to close above. So I don't really see, I mean, there's a lot of the stuff that's completely irrelevant, so we can get rid of all of it for a moment. We can get rid of these rays, and we're so far off from them. So I don't really see a huge impetus to, and I'm drawing that I mean, as clean as you can get it. So I don't really see a huge impetus here to buy it. So the very first thing you have to do is flip this convergence, which puts you roughly at around 30 and a quarter. That's really where you'd have to be in order if you wanted to buy this. And let's throw the indicators back in, and that gets you over the 21-day and puts you right into the 50. So, you're going to be buying this at 30 and a quarter, and then you need to get above the 50-day. So you could just be trading in here for some time. Also, what doesn't excite me is that these moving averages are just straight lining. And when you straight line, that usually means that we're not really going to go anywhere. It usually means that you're just going to base for a period of time. So I don't see a big push that I have to be in this right now. So a couple more, and then we're going to go through the indexes real quick. And I have I do want to go through the ETF idea I threw out today, and another idea that's going to be in there today. So this 2009 line, I mean, that's my level. Do I think we're setting up for it? Yeah, I do. I think we're finally setting up for this break. It could be coming soon. I personally think we're setting up for a massive push on the NASDAQ. I think a lot of people got washed out, and then they got stopped out this week, and they didn't have a plan on how they're getting back on their positions. But just look at this 16 and a quarter level and get rid of all these indicators for a minute, and look at how we've tested it, right? And this was, just so you understand that line and where that takes you. So you can see how we just hit this and just respected it, right? And then we rallied, but you're kind of trapped, aren't you? But you're trapped under this resistance, and if you take the low of this line and the top of this line, you actually have a little bull flag right here, with this being the flagpole. So a break above this should lead to a big push. Now let's look at the indicators and see what else that tells us. Yeah, you're respecting the 5 and the 8 and the crossing. You're above the 21, which is the first time we've closed above the 21-day moving average since February, since back here. Right? So since we haven't closed above it since the end of February. So that's a very bullish sign. And it means the bulls are back in charge of this one for now. So look for a break of this 2090. I'm not concerned about the 50-day. If we clear this 21-day, we'll go through this pretty quickly. We could run into some selling, but I don't see that. That's not my biggest concern. My biggest concern is getting through this 2090. We just have not been able to do that. And actually, when we looked at this, on the weekly, it was the same level. Like, you have these levels and they exist, right? And you really have to pay attention to them. But look here, like, you can see this level, the 17 level, you're finally above it, okay? And you closed here on the low. So let's see how the week closes. But if this closes here, and I flip back in this weekly channel, this will be above the 5-week, and we'll start moving. Like, this could get ready to move again. And I do believe that a lot of these fintech names got hurt when that hedge fund blew up. To me, with the just sheer volume, like, look at the selling in this period of time, right? So, I mean, you're down 57% 2 weeks. So to me, that was just somebody that just had to get the heck out. So that's what I think you're saying. Now, that said, let's do TMDX, and I want to talk about two more. This TMDX, look, you had positive news. What happened? Sold down. The people that are in these biotech funds, or that are buying these right now, they're selling the news. I mean, it's very clear what's going on here. This is nasty. Look at this volume. Just nasty volume, and I mean, it's huge volume, and you're not seeing anything. Like, you opened at this level, 21 was rejected. The 5 and the 8s you're opening at, they're being rejected. The 50 can't hold. Like, you just, you've broken. If you look at this and clean this up, and look, you're right here. I mean, it's go time. You need to hold. If you break this, these start becoming levels. So in other words, when you break through a downward trend, or an upper trend line, the lower one, these start becoming your support lines. These little peaks. So this can get nasty when you break these, because now you have to go through the basing period again, and this will be the low of the base. So that's really what you have to look at. So this is not something I would step in front of. Frankly, if it broke this level, you could probably still short it. So this is not something I'd be running into right now. I'd let it prove itself, but it's definitely not something I would chase. This UPST, we've been in and out of this one. Rally did well with it. We had a stop on it. We got stopped out of this one. I'm not going to revisit this until it's on the secondary. I've been posting my trades on it on Twitter. And, right now it's just when we opened here, we opened outside of this wedge line. And as soon as we did that at the 137, 138 range, you tried to get above it. It didn't. You have the frozen rope pattern, which is a rising wedge, and then it's just the straight down. Today you opened at support, right? And what happened? And then you just stole straight down. So I think you have to watch this. I mean, the rumor is that this is going to be priced around 115, 118. I don't know how accurate that is, but that seems what it's going to be priced at, and it seems a little oversubscribed. So you really have to see and just wait. This will not move in a positive direction. It might trade around, but it's not going to be over until that allocation is done and people see how much of it they actually get. Because if they don't get the allocation that they want to get, they're going to buy in the open market, and that's what you want to see. So we're going to do this one really quickly, and then I'm going to do the indexes and one stock idea that's going to be in the newsletter tonight. So you can see how we've just been rolling here on this XL, and I just want to touch base on this. Like, look, you have to understand these stocks, okay? Not all these SPACs are going to make it, and actually a lot of them are not going to make it. And you're at the low end of this trading range. This volume, look what happened when you got to the 21-day. Look at the amount of selling. I mean, that tells you who wants out of this. That's not mom and pop selling. That is major institutional selling. There's no question about it. And if you come through this, you actually even took out the lower low of that day. So this is not something you want to go near. Where can this thing go? It can go below here. It can go back down. You can just see the trajectory, and you're just not set up any way here to show me anything that you need to be in this. Nothing. I mean, this was a classic, sell when it hit the 21-day moving average. So just avoid it. And I don't care that this thing's trading that low. Does that mean it could snap back on a short rally? Yes. But it doesn't mean that it's going to have the sustainable move that you've seen here. And I don't, we're not getting the fundamentals and what the company does and all that. It's not really relevant. What's relevant is what the price is telling you what's going to happen, not the PR that they're coming out with. So let's just get into, I want to go over this one. This is one that's going to be in the newsletter tonight. This FNGU, I've been waiting for it and waiting, and I just wanted to see something first. First, I wanted to get back into this rising wedge. Okay, and that's what we've done. Now we're at the lower end of that, so I can have a really tight stop on it. My stop on this is probably going to be 2 points. It's probably actually going to be the low of this bar. The more I'm thinking about it, 30 3/4, which really gives me, 2.5 points from the entry. It's actually actionable based upon the close, but this was really what you wanted to see. Okay, you're above this 33, so now I'm down. I test it, I break, double bottom, and now I've broken this 33. So this is setting up now. Let's remove this rectangle. This 37 line, I'm setting that up, but more importantly, I'm setting up to go up to here. I'm setting up for let me get rid of this ray. I'm setting up for a really big move. When you start clearing these highs like this, you might backfill, but you're going to start going through these levels. So the first level is 37. Okay. And then the next target, the target I'm going to put on it for the newsletter tonight is going to be 44, 45. But you can see the potential of this and the stocks that are moving. I'm just going to use this one. It's just more direct. But you can see the move and the magnitude of what could happen here. Now you have to understand what's in this FNGU. These are the large cap stocks that are moving right now. So this is, and it's a 3X ETF. So this is, we traded this one before and we did very well with it, and I think it's time to put it back in the newsletter. I think that you can see a fairly decent move here over the next month. Just from here, you'd be looking at just to there's 32%. So I really like that. And this I put in the newsletter, and I hope people acted on it before it actually, it's up another $1 after hours. I've been stating this when we were here that we bottomed. And we tested and we came in, and I'm going to throw in these indicators so you can see what's going on. Look at the trajectory of these indicators and how they're moving up. This is getting ready to rip. And you see it today. all I have is green volume. Yeah, it's low. All I have are buys, gaps that I have to get in. I have to get in this. You're seeing gap buying over and over again. 1, 2, third day was today. And I understand that the stocks are going down, but the ones that are going down are the weak ones. They're not the ones that have been basing for 6 months. So when we talked about this, you're going to this line, okay? And this really puts you, 120. Right now is where you're going to on this line, right? So right here at 105, this is your buy point, and that's why it's in the letter. But look, this can just ride this the whole way up. And if it flips back into it, this gets really tight and very interesting. So this is definitely one that you need to look at and get exposure to. If you look at what's going on with the SOXL, we called this on Monday. I said, look, it's going to have to back off and rest, okay? It hit here on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, we're hitting it again. It may be tomorrow that you see this finally break out of this. And if we break through this trend line, just so we're clear, this is not the upper trend line we're breaking out of, right? So you'd be breaking out of this wedge. And I'm going to move this over here because now this is moved, because you got to get above there, right? So you really want to get above the 46 line. But get above 46, and what you're going to see is you're not above the upper trend, you're above the lower trend line. So if you just clone these to get an understanding of where that would put you here, okay? Flipping into this channel gets us to 55, 56. If we do this tomorrow and we make that flip, there's a really good chance that this gets added as well. So yeah, granted, we don't pick the bottoms. I'm not really trying to bottom fish. I'm trying to make sure that we're in for the big move. And this could have a substantial move. This could easily add 15 points here. Let's see where we're at. Yeah, 16 points is what they're saying. Just by flipping that line, because you're breaking the wedge line and you're breaking back into the channel. And again, let's just walk through this so people can understand this. When you have these trends and you start breaking these trend lines, that's really important. So that's it in a nutshell. Covered everything that we really wanted to cover today. If you could do me a favor and please like this video and subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 people as soon as possible as subscribers so that I can start doing live calls and have a little chat room on here, and I need 1,000 people for it. So that's it. Thank you very much. Have a great evening.